Welcome. Welcome to Tea with the Druid. I'm Youth, and I'm standing in for Philip today. And it's very exciting, yeah. So we come into the circle, into the clearing in the forest. Hi from Ulster, Kathy from Florida, Victor from Brussels, Carola from Western Germany, Alanya from Colorado. Wonderful. So I just love this technology that allows us to connect like this. Many of you probably don't know who I am or what I'm doing. Essentially, I'm an artist and a music producer, composer, writer, author, poet, painter. I do many different creative disciplines and things. I've been making music predominantly for the last 45 years. And in many ways, I've been trying to make my life meaningful through the process of making music and being creative. It's a big part of how that has been informed as a long journey, a long conversation. But briefly, I joined the audio OBOD, late 80s, early 90s. I'd had a bit of an awakening and a wounding from at 21 from taking way too much LSD. But it opened me up, and I came through my sort of shattered ego with a complete awakening to the spirituality of nature, and spent a lot of time then studying and self-educating about shamanic practices, which led me in the late 80s to go to India, as you do. And I had a house in India for 10 years, spending 4 to 6 months a year. And that really opened me up. But whilst doing a meditation there, I got an insight that actually my path and journey wasn't going to be there. At a little closer to home, I went back to the UK and I discovered the order and joined. And that for my life's work for the last 35 years or so, really helped with my creative discipline, and really given me the mystery school education that I needed to find a sense of purpose and meaning to the work I was doing, and to a compass to guide myself through it. I was in great fear of becoming a bit of a pocketbook philosopher, so I really understood I needed to go deeper into one thing. Even though I have a very pantheistic belief system, I'm very interested in Buddhism, various strands of shamanism. I'm also interested in aspects of mystical Christianity. I'm very interested in psychology, particularly what they call archetypal psychology, which Philip delves into in many ways. And writers like Hillman and Thomas More, Light of the Soul, all of these have helped give me an understanding and a sensibility towards how to approach creative, inspired state of mind, um, to bring out the potential of myself. And most of the last 40 years, I've made a living out of producing and bringing the best out of other artists. Most of that time, it often doesn't work, but some of the time it really comes together. And I've made a big study into how what is it that makes it work? It's such a mystery, an impenetrable mystery, um, in the way nature is as well. But connecting to it, identifying with it, can really help bring the Arwen, the inspiration through, not just occasionally, but like every day. But this does require a commitment and discipline from yourself as an artist or a writer or a painter to go deep into it, to be able to receive the greater teachings. Of course, really helps with that, and has really helped me. Some of the artists I've worked with, to give you an idea of what I do, unusually I have a broad spectrum of music, from folk, classical, trance, electronic music, and rock and singer-songwriters. But some of my greatest successes and more well-known artists I've worked with, I like the Orb, Killing Joke. I've been a founder member of for 40 years. I'm still working with the band, and that's been its own school education for me. Each member of the band has had their own mystery school education, and it's been a great learning cauldron for me. But also more well-known artists like Paul McCartney. I made 3 albums with him as the fireman, being in a band with him. And that was a great honor, and I learned so much from Paul. And Bittersweet Symphony, The Verve, probably my most well-known single that I co-produced. Pink Floyd's last album, The Endless River. So many other things in between, from Guns N' Roses to I don't know. I think it's weird. I don't often describe what I do or explain what I do very often. It's difficult talking about it, but it gives you an idea of the broader spectrum. The last few years, I've been writing a lot of poetry and doing a lot of painting as well. And one of the authors I've been really inspired by over the years is a guy called Colin Wilson, who when he was in his early 20s, wrote a book called The Outsider. Most of his books, he's written many. A very good one on the occult is about capturing what he calls the peak experience and how to switch it on and off. I've learned a lot from that as well, and I think, especially on this group with OBOD, everybody who's going through OBOD has entered into it through a bardic lens of poetry and music, and so a lot of this should resonate well with everyone there who are in the bardic grade. I just want to say welcome to everyone else. People are still piling in, and it's great to see a few comments, but a great welcome. Thank you. I feel very warmly embraced for the order. I must say I found this a little bit anxious to do, because where I am at the moment is in Andalusia, southern Spain, and the internet connection here is a little wobbly. So I apologise if there's any tech. But I'm in a very rural area, surrounded by ancient olive groves and orange groves as well. And at the moment, the oranges are withering on the vine a little bit, but we still get that beautiful aroma of orange blossom and pine catching on the wind as it's coming up into the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's a really amazing place to be. And I co-designed and built a studio here 20 years ago. And I've been spending a lot of time here, reconnecting to the place and the nature here and the seasons. And that's been incredibly inspiring for me as well. And I hope everybody's feeling, oh, hello, Penny and Arthur, lovely. What I love about this Druid team with the Druid, which I watch a lot, and especially in lockdown, I find Philip's so good at it. I can't hope to compete there. But what I love is it starts with this idea of a cup of tea. And I remember the first Druid camps I went to near Swindon, right in the rural heart of England, not far from Avebury. As you went into the Druid camp, you'd always be welcomed, often by Penny or both of them, with a nice cup of tea. And you'd sit down and have a cup of tea and decompress from the external world into the magical world of the Druid and the camp. And it was such a wonderful welcome. And I can only wish everyone else a lovely welcome to the circle tonight. The community and fellowship I found with OBOD has been really sustaining and inspiring. And it's led me to actually start a couple of other groves. I mean, I went through all the Druid groves and then began to start my own sort of discrete groves. I mean, there was a point where I had to ask if I could experiment with psychedelics within a grove of Druids. Feeling that, I'd had a lot of experience with that. I knew the order was very, very straight and become known as the teaching order at that point. And a lot of people it was that, anything that was slightly considered was like, that's what we're getting away from. And I totally respected that. Nevertheless, it's I thought it was a very big part of the tradition, and Philip actually tacitly gave. He did say, "Don't tell anyone." But one of the things that came out, I mean, ironically, now Philip's got a new job working with the medical therapeutic use of mushrooms and other psychedelics, which it just shows how far we've come. I mean, when I first joined the order and I was going to India, I did a lot of yoga. And when I came back to England and did yoga, people thought I was an absolute crank in a cult or some weird thing. But actually, now, 20 years later, there's 4 or 5 yoga centres on my high street around the corner from me in London. Everybody does yoga. It shows how far we've come, and there's been this huge renaissance, inevitable pagan renaissance, some would say, in the last 15, 20 years. And the interest has just become a phenomenon. Part of that has come up with the phenomena of ayahuasca retreats, sacred retreats, the legislation of psychedelics in certain states in America now, and the benefits we're discovering from the medical health elements of microdosing psychedelics is now coming to light as being incredibly effective, way more effective than the pharma alternatives. So I think that's a wonderful thing. I mean, I don't actually take psychedelics very often now, but occasionally, and very kind of homeopathically often. But I do find that the connection and the reconnection I can get with that, especially when it's used in a spiritual sense, ceremonially, or something, it's incredibly powerful and amazing benefit, and has actually really navigated me over the years to where I've got to now. I'm sure if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. So I think it's a wonderful thing. Well, one of the first organisations I started in that way was in the late 90s, called the Society for the Reformation of Ancient Enchantment. And we would put a place in Glastonbury in London, and we would. I'd invite people like Terence McKenna, who wrote, Food of the Gods, one of the great anthropologists of the last 30, 40 years. I would have acoustic music, bardic things. We would include some theatre, and we would also end up with some music. And these led on to many other things. And eventually that's kind of led on to where I'm at now with it, which is about 4 or 5 years ago, I co-founded an arts lab in London. And that's one of the greatest things I've ever been involved with. I can't believe again how that's become a phenomenon of interest. We've got thousands of members now. And the idea of that was actually from the 60s, mid-60s, 67, 66, 67, John Hopkins, a few other pioneers started the arts labs in London. And a lot of people say that's what kick-started the Summer of Love and the big 60s revolution. And that's been a great source of inspiration to me over the years. And I 4 or 5 years ago, I thought we're really in need of something like that again. And so we started with just a small group of artists that opened the doors to many people, and that's created an online group. If you Google South London Arts Lab, you'll find it. And it's, again, been a fantastic source of community and nourishment. And the model of that, a lot of that has been OBOD, actually, and my experiences with OBOD and how to work with the community. Circles. I think there's something quite magical when you create a circle, especially when I'm producing artists and bands. They're all little circles, and all those circles kind of take the dynamic of the family. What's amazing with Druidry is, I mean, with some of the ceremonies, I remember you'll turn up and it's a very wet afternoon. People have got their Tesco shopping bags put there, standing in the circle in the middle of nowhere. And you think, well, what am I doing here? But as soon as you join hands and start an hour, when magic comes through, and it's like these archetypes come through. Everybody's faces just change and morph into these beautiful archetypal figures, and we all know as Druids what that feeling is like. It also works like that when you're in a studio with a band, or when you're working with an arts lab, or things like that. This creating this circle is a very special thing. And the latest thing that come out of the arts lab is a magazine which we started in lockdown. Seems crazy because a lot of magazines are actually done now, but we created this magazine, and we're on our second issue now, and it's gone very well. First issue, it's a combination of different arts: music, literature, poetry, and art. So it's an unusual magazine. And first one, we had people like Alan Moore. This new edition, we've got Billy Childish, Pam Hogg, the designer, on the cover, an article on the history of Glastonbury Festival, David Tibet, some other, it's a kind of esoteric and cultural. Again, these are things that the intention was just to take what we had and go further. A lot of creativity is about the intention, especially with the ceremony. Once you have the intention clear and focused, you can just throw it out into the universe and see what happens. This is the magic of being creative. It's another sort of weird thing that happens when you do something that's takes a bit of courage and risky. You throw yourself at it. The universe conspires, colludes to make it happen for you in ways you could never expect. The magazine's called Mu, M-U. If you Google Moo magazine, it'll pop up, and you can order it online. I'm actually surprised Oboard hasn't created a magazine. I know there's a lot of online activity, but there's so much creativity within Oboard. It could be an amazing application. Nevertheless, I think publishing yourself as well, your poetry, taking your art seriously, fearlessly throwing it out there is an amazing thing to do. Yesterday, or a couple of days ago, I went to visit a local artist here, Jim Hyema, who's an incredible artist in her 70s. Hasn't got a gallery, hasn't got an agent, hasn't got PR, hasn't got anything set up. She decided she wanted to do some big epic paintings, rented this huge warehouse, and it's like over 400 square feet, huge ceilings, ordered some reels of canvas, and she's making these paintings that are like 3 meters high or something. Unbelievable. And she's really getting a lot out of it, throwing herself in, but the courage and the commitment and the bravery it takes to do that with no end in sight even. I mean, it could be considered folly, but I don't think so, because when you invest that much into the act of what you're doing, it will, that energy again will conspire around you to make it happen. I've often tried things, with the band where it's not even about money. It's like one of those things. It's an internal process. I think it's like, if you're trying to chase love, it sort of always slips through your fingers. If you're trying to chase inspiration, sometimes it's never there. Whereas if you take the external away and come from the internal and go, okay, I'm going to be a more loving person. I'm going to commit more to being a loving person on ordinary ways, simple ways, general ways. Then love comes to you without you expecting it, by surprise. And the same with inspiration. Instead of looking for it out there, which of course you can do, like a 20-minute walk in the woods, you'll get the inspiration. Plus, you'll get an immune boost and that's all part of inspiration. But essentially, for inspiration, you have to be discipline unlocks creativity. That's the tricky bit. But once you've got your disciplines, you've got to read. If you want to be a great writer, you've got to read great books. So the inspiration comes through osmosis from reading great books. It will then translate through your fingers. Same with music. Listen to great music you love. When you go to the guitar, it will come through, and that inspiration will be there. And the same for drawing and stuff. At the moment, I'm doing copying a book of drawings on Rembrandt, because I'm trying to get my drawing chops down a bit better. Somehow, a little bit of that sort of, pass over, and suddenly you're inspired. I can give you a good story about working with Paul McCartney once, and Paul's a great example of a bard, probably one of the greatest melody writers in the last 100 years. Incredibly inspired individual. Not only does he do a lot of music, which he's known for, but he also does a lot of poetry. He composes symphonies, and he's a very accomplished painter. And paintings are great. And one day we were working together, and I said, when was it? Was there a penny drop moment when you felt you could do all these things? And he told me this great story about in the 60s when he first met Linda. He was in New York, and Linda's father, Lee Eastman, was the art agent lawyer for many of the big abstract expressionist painters at the time, de Kooning, Jackson Pollock. And through him, they would be invited to hang out in the studios. What an amazing experience. He'd often go to William de Kooning's studio. If you don't know who William de Kooning is, Google him. He's one of the great abstract painters of the last 100 years again. Amazing painter, amazing inspiration. And he goes to the studio, and one day he was there and William was doing these big abstract paintings, very pale colours, and he described it like that. And then he kind of looked at him and he goes to William, "Hey, William, what is it? What is it you're painting?" And William steps back from the painting and looks at it and goes, "Oh, it kind of looks like a sofa to me." And that's why you can get away with that. You don't actually need a theme or a purpose. You can just paint. And actually, he was a very good friend of me because in Paul's office, house, studios, there are de Koonings everywhere on the walls. And I said, "How did you collect so many de Koonings?" He goes, "I went to the studio. He'd say, 'Take a painting with you.'" And I was like, "Wow, what an amazing experience and amazing thing to have. What generosity of spirit from de Kooning as well." But there were no really big ones. I said, "You don't want to take a big one?" And he was like, No. I said, "Why didn't you go for a big one?" He goes, "Well, you just don't do that, do you?" I was like, "Yeah, good one." But I think being surrounded by people who are actually doing things like that is a really good way to get your art up. And the other thing is, it doesn't happen on your own. I know a lot of druids are sort of like hedge witches. They like to retreat into their cave and be very solitary. But actually, you want to be part of a group or a scene. Nothing happens on its own. You could plug into other artists, other people, and other things, and that's where the magic really happens. And that was another inspiration for starting the Arts Lab and magazine. Just connecting. I mean, there's plenty of time to go off your hermit mode and be on your own as well. So I think I've probably talked enough now, and I might just do a little meditation to wrap it up, and then go through a couple of the books I'm reading. I think another thing that's important to remember at the moment, coming out of lockdown, is there was this, after the Black Death in the 1600s of the plague, there was a huge renaissance. The Renaissance came out at the end of that. And there was a big pagan revival with that Renaissance in art after the secular Christian interpretations of it, and things like Botticelli, Birth of Venus, Primavera. Those paintings suddenly were celebrating a more nature-based spirituality, and I think I kind of going to make a little prediction that in the next few years we're going to see a huge renaissance in the arts, and I hope in a multicultural way, and possibly even in a summer of love way, another huge turning tidal mark of our journey. So I'm just going to play a little bit of music to get us in the mood, or we imagine ourselves about to go into a little meditation. If you imagine we're in a forest between Beltane and the solstice, or if you're in the southern hemisphere between Samhain and winter equinox. And I've spent a couple of equinoxes in New Zealand working with Crowded House before, which was amazing energy. And the sunlight's cutting through the glades. We open our ears and listen. You can hear the birds and the bustle and the rustle. And then we keep walking We can taste. Take a deep breath and taste the musky forest. You can taste a slight scent of orange blossom and pine, maybe a bit of mushroom coming through. And eventually, as we're walking down into our groves, the light streaming through, birds singing, we find ourselves in our sacred grove. In our grove, we find our tree, or a tree that's inviting us to give some shade from the sun. And we find a spot and some shade, and we sit down and make ourselves comfortable. And we feel the soft earth, maybe take our shoes off, put our hands into the earth, smell it, even kiss it, and take a deep breath, maybe lie down. We tune into the trees, and the nature around us. We feel held, we feel at home. We breathe in and tune into the roots of the trees. We can feel as we breathe the nurturing nourishment coming out of the ground, up our legs, through our knees, into our pelvis, through our arms, spiraling around our chakras, up into our heads, filling us with light, nourishment, growing energy of nature. Or maybe we tune into the sky and the stars. Even though the sky's blue, we know the stars are there. We tune into the stars and the cosmos and the universe, of which we're all made. All the animals, all the people who have lived before us, all the ancestors. Tune into them. We ask for their blessing, the blessing of the land and the blessing of the season, the blessing of the time. Let go of all our intense frustrations. Let go of all our worries. Find our muscles relaxing. And every breath, we feel ourselves deeper and more connected to the universe. Just soak up that light and energy. Realize there is no one thing, one person. It's only energy. Energy flowing and moving. Energy juxtaposing. Chemistry colliding, exploding. All that energy around us is just beginning to flow. And we're all connected to it. And let go, relax our hands. Feel waves of energy. Feel the ancestors' support and love. And give thanks. Thanks for all the things we have in our life. Thanks for the moment. come back down to our bodies, into the groove. Slowly open our eyes, feeling warm and held without fear. Find ourselves back in front of our laptops and tablets, back in our homes, renewed. Lovely. So I hope that's working for you. And Orange Blossom and Pies comments, heartfelt meditation in chat from Kay. Thank you, brother. Blessings of good internet. We can't have anything. Oh, Emma Watkinson, what an amazing painter. Hi, Emma. Oh, yes. Botticelli painted Aphrodite halfway through the day. Yes. Isn't that amazing? Such beauty can come out of all that challenge and difficult constriction. So some of the books I'm reading at the moment, let's have a look. This is one I come back to a lot, Unlocking Creativity by Michael Beinhorn, who's an amazing producer, 80s sort of power rock producer. It doesn't matter whether you like his music or not. The book itself is fantastic, amazing insight into getting around our monkey mind. Let's put it that way: the chatter and the avoidance, things you wouldn't expect come up as avoidance. Perfectionism, that's often a form of avoidance. Our minds are so clever. We can convince ourselves that by not doing something, it's a good thing to do, which it never is. Another book I'm reading, The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. One of many, of course, by Monica Zhu and Barbara Moore. Amazing and quite old, actually, this book now, but it's still great to tap into that. Another older book I'm tapping into, which is a little more controversial, but I'm finding it mind-blowing, is Camille Paglia, Sexual Persona. She's the art and technicity to Emily Dickinson. I mean, she's trying to unpack and explain our sexual preferences and why we are who we are, and it's incredible mind possesses. Even though she describes herself as someone who isn't is an atheist, what she's talking about a lot is pain. And she uses the archetypal metaphors of Apollo and Dionysus a lot, which I will really connect to that. Apollonian culture you could consider as the Western rational mindset, academic, that we kind of predominantly live by. Dionysian is the more feminine, pagan, goddess, nature-based, bohemian. Now, in Greek mythology, there's a constant eternal battle between Dionysus and Apollo, of course. And the result of that, amazingly, is actually comedy and tragedy, but predominantly comedy. That makes sense to me with Killing Joke, but again, trying to... With art and working with groups, you don't want people who are just like you. You want people who are the opposite of you. You know, the paradox, polarity opposite of you. Those juxtapositions, when brought together, create flashes and sparks of alchemy. And it's the same in an internal process between Apollonian and Dionysian. We do kind of need both, but Camille argues that there's a bit of an imbalance towards the Apollonian, and she's got some incredible insights as well. And the third book I'm referencing, this is a great book. This is more artistic. Drawings by Rembrandt and His Circle, Just so, I mean, such effortless. It appears effortless. There's an economy of mark making. I mean, from the cover, you can see there's less than 2-3 dozen marks made, but look at the transmutation of emotion and depth in that little sketch. This is something that I think you can only achieve through an incredible amount of hard work and discipline doing. Emma will tell you, as she's an amazing artist, it doesn't just happen overnight, but with the right intention and just doing it, just getting out there doing it every day, amazing results will come, and they'll be unique to you. Even if you're copying, remember, what comes out is unique to you. Yeah, the amazing. Don't be afraid to, sometimes you think, oh, I've got to be totally original, before I can present something I've done creatively. Don't listen to that. That's the avoiding monkey mind. Picasso said, amateurs borrow genius stills. Go straight to it. Jar Wobble said to me once, if I hear something and it touches me in here, it's mine, and I just take it. And in taking it, you make it yours again by making it unique and juxtaposing it in a different way. This is what all the greats have done. This is from Miles Davis to Allen Ginsberg to Billie Holiday to the Stones. Every great artist starts off copying. Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of putting it out as your own work. In one way or another, you will imbue it with something that is unique. And be fearless about it. Enjoy it. It's only a thing. It's just a mark. It's like a caveman making a scratch on the wall. Anyway, lovely to be here. I look forward to having a proper read of all the comments afterwards. Thanks once again for your support. You made it very, very pleasant for me. And thanks to Philip and Ema and the order. The Ema's broadcasts have been really inspiring as well, for allowing me to spend some time with you. And I look forward to seeing you on tour somewhere or meeting you at an order assembly. And saying hello in person. But otherwise, I wish you all the best with your own creative endeavors and much success and Arwen to you. And have a great evening. And thank you.